The rhythm was off. Her feet tangled on day one, drawing smirks from the rest of the line. Cadence echoed, and she stumbled, again. But she didn't drop out. She studied each beat, marched alone at night, and tuned her breath to the drums. And on graduation day, when the platoon marched for the final review, she was at the front. And every single boot behind her moved in perfect unison. From which part of the world are you watching this incredible transformation today? If you believe that leadership is earned through dedication rather than given through talent, consider subscribing for more stories that prove persistence can turn weakness into strength. The crisp October morning at the United States Military Academy cast golden light across the parade ground as 4th Company assembled for their first formal drill and ceremony evaluation. At 0645 hours, 44 new cadets stood in formation on the weathered asphalt, their gray uniforms pristine and their faces reflecting the nervous anticipation that marked plebes attempting to master one of West Point's most visible traditions. The Hudson River Valley stretched beyond the Academy's stone walls, its autumn foliage providing a magnificent backdrop for what would prove to be a defining moment in many young military careers. Major Catherine Reynolds surveyed her newest plebes with the sharp assessment of an officer who'd spent 12 years developing military bearing in future Army leaders. Her own West Point experience had taught her that drill and ceremony separated cadets who could internalize precision under scrutiny from those who crumbled when exacting standards met public evaluation. Some possessed an intuitive sense of rhythm and spatial awareness that made close-order drill appear natural, while others faced significant obstacles in meeting the Academy's unforgiving requirements for military precision. Standing in the third rank, second position from the left, was 4th Class Cadet Alexandra Chun, 19 years old and 5 weeks into her plebe year at the Academy. Despite her impressive academic credentials and demonstrated leadership abilities that had secured her appointment, Chun had discovered that West Point's emphasis on military bearing presented challenges that couldn't be overcome through study habits alone. Her coordination during drill sessions had been consistently problematic, creating visible disruptions in formation integrity that drew unwanted attention from both instructors and fellow cadets. Today marks your first graded evaluation in military drill, Major Reynolds announced, her voice carrying across the formation with the authority that came from years of commanding soldiers in garrison and combat environments. This assessment will determine your military development ratings and influence your standing within the Corps of Cadets. Excellence in drill reflects the attention to detail and disciplined precision that define successful military officers. Chun listened to Reynolds' briefing while battling the familiar anxiety that had plagued her since her disastrous introduction to close-order drill during Beast Barracks. Unlike academic challenges where she could leverage analytical skills and systematic study methods that had served her throughout high school, marching demanded physical coordination and rhythmic timing that seemed to elude her despite intensive practice and genuine effort. Cadet Chun, called First Class Cadet Martinez, the company's senior cadet responsible for plebe military training. Your position third rank, second from left. Maintain exact alignment with the cadets around you and execute all movements with precision timing. Chun moved to her designated position, acutely aware that her placement provided clear visibility to evaluating officers and her fellow cadets. Previous drill sessions had established her as a source of formation disruption, and her struggles with basic movements had become a recognized problem within 4th Company's training program. Company, attend tie-in. Martinez commanded, his voice echoing across the parade ground with the crisp authority that 4 years of academy training had developed in West Point's senior cadets. Chun snapped to attention along with her classmates, but her movement timing was fractionally delayed and her posture adjustment less precise than the other cadets, creating a subtle but visible break in the formation's uniformity. She felt her cheeks warming as she noticed several cadets in adjacent ranks glancing toward her position, their expressions mixing sympathy with barely concealed frustration at her continued coordination difficulties. Right, face, came Martinez's next command. Chun executed the 90-degree turn, but her heel pivot wasn't sharp enough, and her weight transfer created a slight wobble that disrupted her alignment with the formation. The error was minor by civilian standards, but glaring within the context of military drill, where precision tolerance measured success in fractions of inches and split-second timing. Forward march, Martinez ordered, initiating the movement sequence that would test each cadet's ability to maintain step discipline, proper posture, and formation alignment while executing complex parade ground maneuvers. Chen stepped off with her left foot as trained, but within 10 paces her natural gait began conflicting with the prescribed cadence being maintained by her fellow cadets. Her stride length and timing gradually shifted out of phase with the formation, creating increasingly visible disruption that grew more apparent with each passing moment. By the time Fourth Company had marched 75 yards, Chen was noticeably out of step with everyone around her. The ripple effects of her coordination problems began affecting adjacent cadets, who found themselves unconsciously adjusting their own timing to accommodate her irregular pace. The formation's overall precision degraded as cadets attempted to maintain alignment despite the disruption emanating from Chen's position. Column left march, Martinez called, directing the formation through a 90-degree change of direction that required coordinated timing from all participants. Chen attempted to execute the movement, but her timing was off by nearly a full count, causing her to initiate the turn when cadets around her were still marching straight ahead. The resulting collision of movements created visible chaos in her section of the formation, with several cadets having to adjust their positions to prevent physical contact. Halt, Martinez commanded sharply, bringing the formation to an immediate stop after less than 5 minutes of marching. As Fourth Company came to attention, Chen realized that her coordination failures had been on full display for the entire evolution, observed by evaluating officers, senior cadets, and her 43 classmates. The formation stood in uncomfortable silence while Martinez and Major Reynolds conferred quietly about the obvious problems that had disrupted the evaluation. Cadet Chen, Major Reynolds called, her voice carrying across the formation with unmistakable authority. Step forward for individual assessment. Chen moved out of formation, her face burning with embarrassment as every eye focused on her public correction. She'd been singled out during every drill session since arriving at West Point, but never during a formal evaluation that would affect her military development ratings and potentially her continuation at the academy. Your marching is creating formation-wide disruption, Reynolds said, her voice pitched loud enough for all cadets to hear clearly. Military drill requires synchronized precision from every participant. Individual deficiencies compromise unit effectiveness and reflect poorly on your commitment to military excellence. Yes, ma'am, Chen replied, her voice barely audible despite her effort to project the confidence that academy training emphasized in all cadet interactions. You will report to Cadet Martinez immediately after evening formation for intensive remedial instruction, Reynolds continued. This deficiency must be corrected before you can participate in future company drill evaluations. Your military development depends on mastering these fundamental skills. Chen returned to her position knowing that her struggles had escalated from personal challenge to official remediation, with implications for her overall standing at the academy. Her inability to master basic drill movements was now documented in her permanent record and would require formal intervention to prevent further deterioration. The remainder of the evaluation proceeded with Chen attempting to minimize her disruption while still participating in required movements. She concentrated intensely on the cadets surrounding her, trying desperately to match their timing and precision, but her natural coordination seemed to work against the mechanical uniformity that military drill demanded from all participants. When the evaluation concluded and cadets were released to their next training commitments, Chen found herself walking alone across the parade ground while her classmates moved in animated groups, discussing their performance and upcoming academic obligations. Her isolation was partially self-imposed. She'd begun avoiding casual interaction to prevent drawing additional attention to her drill difficulties. Chen called a familiar voice, causing her to turn and see Cadet Williams, her roommate, approaching with genuine concern rather than the mockery she'd grown accustomed to receiving from other cadets. Hey, Williams, Chen responded, grateful for any friendly contact after another morning of public humiliation and official correction. Look, everyone here struggles with something during plebe year, Williams said, falling into step beside Chen as they walked toward Thayer Hall for morning academic classes. I'm barely passing physics despite supposedly having good preparation in math and science. Chun appreciated William's attempt at encouragement, but academic challenges felt fundamentally different from the physical coordination problems that made her appear incompetent during basic military training that other cadets seemed to master through minimal effort and natural ability. The difference is that your physics struggles don't disrupt the entire company during formal evaluations, Chun replied. When I mess up drill, everyone notices, and it reflects poorly on Fourth Company's overall military bearing and training standards. That's true, Williams acknowledged honestly. But you're also one of the hardest working cadets in our class, and everyone recognizes your effort even if the results haven't matched your intentions yet. Their conversation was interrupted by first-class cadet Martinez approaching them with purposeful stride, his expression indicating he was seeking Chun specifically rather than encountering her by coincidence during normal movement between training locations. Cadet Chun, Martinez said, his tone carrying the formal authority that senior cadets employed when addressing plebes about official training matters. I want to see you at 19:30 hours behind the cadet gym for individual drill instruction. Bring your rifle, field manual, and be prepared for extended training. Yes, sir, Chun replied, understanding that her evening would be devoted to additional military training rather than the academic study time she desperately needed to maintain her classroom performance standards. As Martinez departed to address other training responsibilities, Williams looked at Chun with evident sympathy for the additional challenges being added to her already demanding plebe schedule. Extra drill instruction on top of everything else we're trying to manage, Williams observed. That's going to make an already brutal schedule even more difficult. It's necessary, Chun said, though her voice lacked conviction about the likelihood of success. I need to figure out how to make this work, or I'll end up being separated from the academy for military deficiencies. That evening, Chun reported to the designated training area behind the cadet gymnasium, where Martinez had established a private space with markers indicating boundaries for individual drill practice. The location provided enough privacy to avoid attracting attention from other cadets while remaining within approved areas for official training activities. Chun, Martinez said as she approached the training area, we need to address your coordination issues through systematic analysis rather than hoping repetitive practice will somehow produce improvement. Your effort has been consistently outstanding, but effort alone isn't resolving the fundamental problems. Chun appreciated Martinez's straightforward but supportive approach to her difficulties. Unlike some senior cadets who seemed to view plebe struggles as entertainment or character flaws, Martinez appeared genuinely committed to helping her succeed rather than simply documenting her continued failures for administrative purposes. Sir, I've been practicing every movement sequence I can remember from our company sessions, but something fundamental isn't connecting, Chun admitted. I can't seem to internalize the rhythm and spatial relationships that other cadets seem to absorb naturally during group instruction. That's actually valuable diagnostic information, Martinez replied. If intuitive learning isn't working for you, we need to develop an analytical approach that leverages your academic strengths rather than trying to force natural coordination that may not be developable. What followed was 90 minutes of intensive individual instruction that deconstructed each drill movement into measurable components, analyzing the timing relationships, foot placement mechanics, and body positioning that Chun had been struggling to coordinate simultaneously. Martinez's approach emphasized understanding underlying principles rather than simply copying movements she observed other cadets performing. The key insight, Martinez explained as Chun practiced basic marching fundamentals in isolation, is that military drill isn't actually about natural rhythm or intuitive movement. It's about mathematical precision applied to physical motion. Every movement has specific timing intervals and spatial requirements that can be learned through systematic analysis. Chun found Martinez's analytical framework much more accessible than the group instruction she'd been receiving during company training. When drill movements were broken down into quantifiable elements rather than presented as intuitive skills requiring natural ability, she could apply the logical thinking processes that had always been her greatest academic strength. Significantly better, Martinez acknowledged as Chun completed a series of facing movements with notably improved precision and timing. Your coordination improves dramatically when you understand the mechanical principles rather than trying to feel your way through complex movement sequences. The individual instruction sessions became a regular component of Chen's evening routine, with Martinez providing the systematic analysis and incremental progression that allowed her to gradually master movements that had initially seemed impossible to execute correctly. Her improvement was measurable but gradual, with each session producing modest but consistent gains in timing accuracy and spatial precision. More importantly, the additional training began revealing that Chen's analytical approach to drill could potentially transform from liability into asset. Her systematic understanding of movement mechanics provided insights that could potentially benefit other cadets who relied primarily on natural coordination without understanding underlying principles. After 4 weeks of individual instruction, Martinez determined that Chun had progressed sufficiently to attempt reintegration into company drill without causing formation-wide disruption. Her movements remained less naturally fluid than cadets with superior innate coordination, but her precision and consistency had reached acceptable standards for group participation. "Chun," Martinez said during one of their evening training sessions, "I want you to try a different approach during tomorrow's company drill evaluation. Instead of focusing on matching other cadets' movements, I want you to concentrate on demonstrating the precision standards we've been developing." The suggestion surprised Chun, who had spent months attempting to blend invisibly into the formation rather than distinguishing herself through any type of standout performance, positive or negative. "Sir, what exactly do you mean by demonstrating precision standards?" Chun asked, uncertain about Martinez's intentions. "I mean leading by example," Martinez replied. "Your systematic approach to drill has given you deeper understanding of proper technique than most cadets who rely purely on natural ability. Use that knowledge to set the standard for what military precision actually looks like." The following morning's company drill began with Chun positioned in her familiar location within the formation, but her mental approach had fundamentally shifted from minimizing disruption to demonstrating excellence. Instead of anxiety about making visible mistakes, she felt focused determination to execute every movement with the precision that weeks of analytical training had developed. "Company, attend tie-in," Martinez commanded. Chen's movement to attention was mechanically perfect and precisely timed, serving as a visual reference point for cadets around her rather than a source of formation disruption. Her posture and bearing reflected systematic practice that had eliminated the hesitation and imprecision that had previously characterized her drill performance. Left face, Chun executed the movement with mathematical precision, her heel placement and body rotation serving as a demonstration of proper technique rather than deviation from formation standards. The cadet's position near her began unconsciously matching her precision rather than she struggling to approximate their more casual execution. Forward march. Chun stepped off with perfect timing and maintained exact cadence throughout the movement sequence. Her stride length and foot placement had been calculated to optimize formation integrity, and her consistency helped establish rhythm for the entire rank rather than disrupting the flow that others had previously established. The transformation was remarkable for everyone observing the drill session. Chen's systematic approach was elevating the performance of cadets around her, creating a ripple effect that improved the overall quality of 4th Company's marching beyond anything they'd achieved during previous training cycles. "Column right march," Martinez commanded, directing the formation through a complex directional change that required precise coordination from all participants. Chun executed the movement with textbook accuracy, her timing and spatial positioning serving as the reference that other cadets instinctively followed. The formation's execution of the maneuver was notably superior to their previous attempts, with Chen's precision providing the foundation for collective improvement. "Halt," Martinez commanded after the company had completed their standard evaluation sequence. As the formation came to attention, the improvement in overall precision and uniformity was immediately apparent to evaluating officers, senior cadets, and the participants themselves. 4th Company's marching had achieved a level of synchronization and military bearing that had been absent during all previous training sessions. Major Reynolds approached the formation with an expression reflecting surprise at the dramatic improvement in collective performance. "Outstanding drill execution," she announced to the assembled cadets. That represents the highest standard of military bearing I've observed from 4th Company since you arrived at the academy. The recognition felt completely different to Chun than the individual corrections and remedial training assignments she'd been receiving throughout her plebe year. For the first time since arriving at West Point, her drill performance was contributing positively to the company's collective achievement rather than detracting from unit effectiveness. Following dismissal from the formation, multiple cadets approached Chun with questions about drill technique and requests for guidance about improving their own marching precision. The attention represented positive recognition of expertise rather than sympathy for ongoing struggles with basic military skills. "Chun," said Cadet Rodriguez, one of the cadets who had previously expressed frustration with her coordination problems, "your marching today was absolutely perfect. How did you develop that level of mechanical precision?" The question represented peer recognition that Chun had never experienced during her time at West Point. Acknowledgement that her systematic approach to drill had produced results worth learning from rather than simply tolerating as part of company training requirements. "It's about understanding the engineering principles rather than relying on natural coordination," Chun replied, beginning a discussion of the analytical techniques that Martinez had taught her during their individual training sessions. Every movement has specific mechanical requirements that can be measured and practiced systematically. The impromptu coaching session that developed demonstrated Chen's ability to communicate the systematic approach to drill that had transformed her own performance from liability to asset. Her instruction was methodical and patient, helping other cadets understand concepts that group training had failed to convey effectively. Over the subsequent weeks, Chen's role within 4th Company evolved from struggling plebe requiring remedial instruction to informal drill consultant, with cadets regularly seeking her advice about improving their marching precision and formation techniques. Her systematic understanding of drill mechanics had revealed teaching capabilities that complemented her analytical strengths perfectly. First-class Cadet Martinez had been observing Chen's development with considerable professional satisfaction, noting her transformation from coordination disaster to effective peer instructor. Her progress validated his systematic training methodology while demonstrating leadership potential that hadn't been apparent during her initial struggles with basic military skills. "Chun," Martinez said during one of their regular evening coordination sessions, "I want you to consider applying for the precision drill team when tryouts open next semester. Your analytical approach and demonstrated teaching ability could significantly benefit the Academy's competitive drill programs." The suggestion represented validation of Chen's drill competence and recognition that her systematic approach could contribute to elite military programs rather than simply meeting minimum Academy standards for basic military bearing. "Sir, I appreciate the recommendation," Chen replied, "but I'm still working to maintain consistency in my own performance levels. Teaching others seems premature when I'm still developing personal mastery." "Actually," Martinez said, "teaching others often accelerates your own performance improvement by forcing you to articulate and refine your understanding of proper technique. Your analytical approach could benefit both the drill team and your continued personal development." Chen's acceptance of Martinez's recommendation led to tryouts for West Point's Precision Drill Team, an elite unit that represented the Academy at regional competitions throughout the northeastern United States. Her systematic understanding of drill mechanics and proven teaching ability impressed team leadership despite her relatively recent mastery of basic marching skills. During her first precision drill team practice session, Chen found herself working with cadets who possessed natural coordination and rhythm but lacked the systematic understanding that her analytical approach had developed through necessity. Her insights about timing precision and mechanical consistency proved immediately valuable for improving competitive performance standards. "Chun," said First Class Cadet Thompson, the drill team commander, "your technical knowledge represents exactly what we need to elevate our competitive precision beyond what natural ability alone can achieve. Systematic excellence requires the kind of mechanical analysis you bring to drill movements." The recognition validated Chen's analytical approach while demonstrating that her initial coordination difficulties had led to deeper understanding than most cadets achieved through natural talent alone. Her struggles had become the foundation for expertise that could benefit others facing similar challenges with military-bearing development. As Chin's plebe year progressed toward the climactic graduation review ceremony, her transformation from struggling cadet to drill team member became one of 4th Company's most celebrated success stories. Her systematic approach to military bearing had influenced training methodologies used throughout the company, improving overall performance standards measurably. The ultimate test would arrive during graduation review, when 4th Company would march before academy leadership, distinguished visitors, and families of graduating cadets. Chin had been selected as one of the formation guides, responsible for maintaining precision and timing for an entire section of marching cadets. Company, prepare for graduation review formation, Major Reynolds announced during the pre-ceremony briefing session. This ceremony represents the culmination of your plebe year military development. Your performance reflects not just individual achievement, but the collective excellence that defines 4th Company. Chun felt the familiar pre-performance anxiety that had characterized her early drill experiences, but it was now balanced by confidence built through months of systematic practice and peer recognition of her expertise. Her role as formation guide represented trust in her ability to maintain exacting standards rather than concern about potential for disruption. As 4th Company assembled for the graduation review march, Chin took her designated position at the front corner of her assigned section, responsible for establishing pace and maintaining formation integrity for the 16 cadets positioned behind her. The analytical training that had overcome her initial coordination problems would now be tested under the pressure of formal ceremony before hundreds of observers. Forward, march, came the command that initiated the graduation review sequence. Chin stepped off with the mechanical precision that months of systematic practice had developed, her pace calculated to maintain exact timing throughout the extended ceremonial march route. Her stride length and cadence became the reference standard that other cadets matched, creating formation consistency that reflected analytical training rather than natural coordination ability. The graduation review march proceeded with Chun leading her section through the complex movement sequences required for the formal ceremony. Her precision and consistency provided the stable foundation that allowed other cadets to achieve their optimal collective performance, creating a formation that exemplified the military-bearing West Point sought to develop in future Army officers. As 4th Company executed the final ceremonial movements and came to attention before the reviewing stand, Chin realized that her journey from coordination disaster to formation guide represented far more than personal improvement. Her systematic approach to drill had demonstrated that military excellence could be achieved through analytical rigor and dedicated practice, even when natural ability was completely absent. Exceptional performance, 4th Company, Major Reynolds announced after the ceremony concluded successfully. That represents the most precise graduation review march I've witnessed during my assignment at West Point. The recognition represented collective achievement that Chun had contributed to meaningfully rather than individual accommodation for earlier struggles. Her transformation from coordination liability to formation leader had occurred through systematic effort and analytical rigor rather than lowered standards or special consideration. Years later, as Captain Chun led her first Army company through drill and ceremony training at Fort Bragg, she would use her West Point experience to demonstrate that military precision could be achieved through systematic analysis and dedicated practice regardless of natural coordination ability. Her training approach emphasized understanding mechanical principles rather than relying on intuitive movement, helping soldiers who struggled with similar coordination challenges. The analytical methods that had overcome her plebe year drill difficulties became her fundamental approach to developing military bearing in others, proving that leadership excellence often emerged from overcoming rather than avoiding challenging circumstances. Her graduation review performance at West Point remained a personal reminder that precision and consistency could triumph over natural talent when combined with proper analysis and sustained effort. Chin's story continued influencing military training approaches decades after her academy graduation, demonstrating that systematic instruction could help individuals overcome coordination challenges while developing deeper understanding than those who relied primarily on natural ability. Her transformation from struggling plebe to formation leader proved that authentic military bearing was built through disciplined analysis rather than innate talent, and that the most effective leaders often emerged from those who had learned to excel despite rather than because of their initial advantages or natural gifts.